So, it's been a while.
Shut the hell up!
Sorry. Anyway, while I was working on a massive video essay series, the first part of which you will be able to see very soon, don't worry, one of my collaborators on the project, Matt Draper, you might have heard of him? Yeah, well, he approached me and asked if I'd like to take part in a massive collaborative effort not too dissimilar to the One Marvelous Scene project, which I had taken part in. It was actually my first video, or the Star Wars Defined and One Excellent Scene ones that I unfortunately did not contribute to. But unlike those projects, this one wouldn't be focused on any particular franchise, but rather an entire genre. This is One Horrifying Moment. Okay, so what absolutely bone-chilling, disturbing, horrifying moment from the vast and diverse sea of horror movies over the entire course of film history will I be talking about today for this fine occasion? Well, while I could discuss a scene from one of the classics, such as John Carpenter's Halloween, Psycho, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, or even a more well-known contemporary horror film like Hereditary, Get Out, The Conjuring, Transformers: The Last Night, I'm sorry, I just couldn't resist. There's undoubtedly going to be tons of other people making videos on those types of films, so being the pretentious twat with a genuinely unhealthy obsession of being at least somewhat original that I am, I wanted to delve a little into the indie sphere and talk about a possibly more obscure piece that less creators are going to discuss, that of course being Karyn Kusama's 2015 horror thriller, The Invitation. And the scene I'm going to be talking about, well, that's easy, it's the ending. Spoilers ahead. Now, before we get into the film's final scene and what makes it so goddamn terrifying, to me at least, you have to know a little about me, or more specifically, what genuinely scares me. As someone that watches, or rather studies horror on the regular, most of the time I'm not scared by what I'm watching so much as I'm just entertained. Ghosts, zombies, slashers, monsters, all that stuff, yeah, that's mostly just a fun time for me. It really takes a lot to scare me in those categories. You want to know what actually scares me, though? Cults. Cults are very much real and a potentially dangerous threat to every last one of us. Hell, people watching this very video may have been or are victims to some kind of a cult, and here's the kicker, might not even know it. Cults are fucking terrifying in ways that shake me to my very core as a human being, and anytime I see anything about them in the news or even in fiction, my blood curdles. So, that leads us right into The Invitation. The Invitation is a movie that quietly delves into the deepest, darkest corners of my mind and soul, turning a mirror to some of my very own fears of grief, manipulation, religion, and the feeling of being trapped in a situation I cannot escape. And, well, the ending of this film ultimately serves as a terrifying realization of all those fears coming to pass. After having been suspiciously invited to a dinner party by his ex-wife that he hasn't seen in 2 years to reconnect with old friends and just maybe finally close the book of a painful chapter in his life, Will and his girlfriend Kira wind up being subjected to the most terrifying night of their lives. As it turns out, his ex-wife Eden and her new husband David, as well as a couple personal friends of theirs that were invited to the party and are extremely fucking creepy, are members and devout followers of a spiritual philosophy group known as The Invitation, which ends up being, as you might have already guessed, a fucking death cult. Will struggles endlessly to warn everyone of how suspect everything about this night is, and eventually, when the shit inevitably hits the fan, he still tries to save anyone he can. Unfortunately, though, almost everyone that night dies, the only survivors being himself, Kira, and their friend Tommy. And as the film begins to come to a close, the characters get a mournful sigh of relief as they feel the nightmare is finally over. However, the film has one final visceral blow up its sleeve. The reason this scene scares me so much, for starters, is yes, the mass devastation and hysteria this cult has now left in their wake, but it goes much deeper than that. To truly reach an intense level of fear, something must first hit you extremely close to home, and the events of this film leading to that final moment kind of do, actually. You see, I was a skeptic raised in a conservative Christian household. There were many standards and traditions or rituals, as well as other things that, despite it being really all I knew, felt weird and alien to me, awkward, potentially even dangerous, specifically if I didn't agree or comply with those standards. Now, that's not to say anything ever happened, but those feelings were still very fucking real. So, seeing Will and his friends being awkwardly subjected to uncomfortable ideas and games and rituals by loved ones who'd unabashedly bought into the quote-unquote spiritual philosophy, yeah, you can probably say it's already pushing some of my buttons. But then there's more. There's the subsequent feelings of being trapped, locked into something you're not okay with and haven't consented to, made entirely literal.
Is everything okay, Will?
Yeah. Yeah, why don't you leave the key in the door, though?
There was a home invasion up in the canyon about a month ago.
Okay, what if there was a flyer?
Okay. There you go. I just keep the house a little differently, that's all.
As well as the things we trap inside that we desperately want to let out, but don't out of paralyzing fear, like screaming.
It's good. Scream. Trapped inside me.
Or calling it as it is.
Well, everybody's allowed to...
No, it's a fucking cult, Miguel! It's a fucking cult!
Then, of course, the feeling that you're a judgmental piece of shit for aggressively questioning these things that make you uncomfortable because you may have hurt the feelings of a loved one.
I'm sorry, Pete.
I know it's hard, Will. But you can't criticize us for finding our own way through this. I've never done that to you.
I know, it's none of my business.
And it's not just certain feelings or scenarios that this film emulates that make me uncomfortable. Whether it be intentional or not, there's literally Christian parallels. First off, there's the dinner that could be seen as a literal Last Supper in retrospect. Then there's the specific use of wine in the film to foreshadow the final act, where small glasses of poisoned wine are passed down to every one of the guests in an almost sacramental fashion. Then there is, of course, the Red Lantern. Now, the Red Lanterns got under my skin in a very specific way that I couldn't really put my finger on until it finally hit me. Passover. Now, I know Passover is more of a Jewish holiday, and I mean no disrespect to Jewish people or their traditions. However, with it being in the Old Testament of the Christian Bible, I too am at least somewhat familiar with the story of the first Passover.
Take a lamb, and with its blood, mark the lintel and posts of every door. For tonight, I shall pass through the land of Egypt and smite all the firstborn. But when I see the blood upon your door, I will pass over you, and the plague shall not enter.
Basically, for the 10th and final plague that God bestowed upon Egypt in order to coerce the Pharaoh into letting the Jewish people go, he sent a spirit over the land to kill all the firstborns of Egypt. However, before he did so, he warned his people to place the blood of a sacrificial lamb on their houses as a signal to God to protect their own firstborns from the plague. The Red Lanterns, I feel, are a very twisted, practically inverted reimagining of this idea, as well as certain aspects of the New Testament. And to understand why, we have to once again rewind a little bit to understand what the spiritual philosophy of the invitation is.
Yeah, my boss is into it. It's like a new Est or something, right?
Yeah, no. I think it's a little more grounded than that, more practical. And at the same time, it's very spiritual.
Seriously, what goes on down there? I mean, is it like a self-help group thing, or?
The human brain has a remarkable ability to heal. My life's work has been to discover new ways to rewire, to rewrite our experiences with trauma. I mean, trauma has visited all of us. We invite you to a conscious existence, to a connected existence. Wherever you are, we transcend.
Remember the reward. This beautiful moment is upon us. Tonight is the night our faith is made real. Believe. And give yourself over.
You see, the red lanterns in this movie represent the commencement of a religious ceremony. A ceremony that, in the minds of those indoctrinated, of course, allows for them to leave behind these mortal coils of pain and regret and suffering, torment, to let it pass over them so they may transcend to something better, beyond material understanding. The invitation's group leader, Dr. Joseph, has taken these people from all over because, let's keep in mind, this isn't an isolated incident.
Here in LA, New York, thousands of people, you'd be surprised.
He has taken their trauma, their pain, the one thing that connects us all, and manipulated that vulnerability into a sickness. Will and Eden lost their son. He died on his own birthday from a simple, unforeseeable accident, on a joyous day meant to celebrate the birth of the single person they loved most. Everything was taken from them. Understandably, that can fuck someone up beyond repair. It was enough to tear them apart, and it was enough to make Eden want to kill herself. That trauma that they, and specifically Eden, experienced is the kind of trauma that people like Dr. Joseph, someone Eden and all these other people went to heal, use as a fresh soil to plant insidious ideas into their heads and warp their perspective on what true healing actually is. Turning their own vulnerable minds against themselves and their families, conditioning them to believe the only way to transcend their pain, as well as help others do the same, to truly achieve a life of happiness, is through death. Something that is also symbolized through this recurring design of an inverted diamond inside of a circle. It may seem like nothing at first glance, but this is a known symbol of duality regarding our consciousness of life and death, mind and matter. A symbol that not only covers the windows of the house, but also sits right in the center of the red lantern, the symbol of their salvation from what they believe to be the plague. But in actuality, their spiritual philosophy is the true plague. A plague that destroys minds, families, civilizations. And it's a plague that has taken many, many forms and will continue to take new ones for the rest of human existence. And the sad part is, those that are taken by the plague don't see it as one. Not until it's too late.
You have to help me. You can't leave me. This is wrong. Dr. Joseph said it was going to be hard, but we'll have to finish it.
Eden.
I'm sorry, Will. I'm sorry, Will. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
That's the thing that makes this cult, or any cult or religion, terrifying to me. It's what they can do to people who just want to be happy, to feel forgiven for some perceived or actual wrongdoing, to relieve themselves of immense trauma, and to even be with those who aren't here anymore. And how this mindset demands itself to be recognized and spread by any means necessary to reach more hearts and minds in the misconceived intention of healing them. All this cult can ultimately do, however, is create more immeasurable trauma for those left behind to pick up the pieces. All we're left with in this red rapture is more loss and regret, and a world made only darker. Its light, near non-existent. And in the end, that's what makes this moment so horrifying. Hey everyone, thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. It means a lot. I hope you enjoyed it. And I'd also like to give a big thank you to Matt Draper for involving me in this big collaboration. And I'd also like to make it clear that anyone can make one of these videos. Anyone can do a one horrifying moments video essay, and please do, because it was a lot of fun, and the more voices we have talking about the vast, diverse history of horror, the better, honestly, because, again, it's my favorite genre, aside from superheroes. You know, like, horror is... It's everything to me. But anyway, aside from that, it will probably be in a big playlist. I would definitely recommend contacting Matt on that, because he is the one that initiated this whole thing. He'll know a hell of a lot more about it than me. Yeah, just make a video and then let him know whenever you made it so it can be added to a playlist. Anyway, aside from that, for the people wondering, I want to make it clear, the People vs. Snyder series is still, without a doubt, happening. I know I've tweeted about it a lot, but trust me, it's happening. In fact, I am going to come out and say this right now. The first part of this 4-part video essay series is going to be releasing sometime next month, because I've been working on this for a long time. I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, you know, so I want to make sure that this is as good as it can be before I release it, but it's in a really good place right now, and I just want you guys to know, so you don't get impatient with me, the first part is coming next month, and I'm very proud of it. I really think you guys are going to love it. But anyway, aside from that, since the last time I made a video, I also have a girlfriend now, and I am doing a podcast with her. Yeah, the podcast I'm doing with my girlfriend Ginny is called the Cartoon Contrast Broadcast. I know that's a mouthful, but, you know, it's a fun time, and I am just a co-host. She's the main host. I'm hoping to be on there more often in the future, but I do have an episode with her talking about the 3 Killing Joke adaptations, as well as, hopefully, if everything goes right, an episode talking about Black Panther. It's a really fun time, at least to be a part of the podcast, and, you know, I recommend you guys go check it out and see for yourself what you think. It's on most podcast platforms. It's on Spotify. It's on a lot of them. I just recommend checking it out if you can. If it's something that you're interested in, please do. It means a lot to us. But yeah, anyway, as always, if you like this video, please click the like button down below and subscribe, as well as share this video if you can. And I will be seeing you in the next video.